Well, hello there, comics fans, and welcome to another review video. So today I'm reviewing yet another tie-in one-shot to the Dark Knight's Death Metal crossover event, whose main story is written by Scott Snyder and illustrated by Greg Capullo. But, such as is in the case of most of the contemporary DC and Marvel comics events, there are tons, hundreds, dozens of thousands of tie-ins and one-shots that you necessarily need to read in order to fully understand the main story. Now, it's not always the case, but I found that as far as the Dark Knight's Death Metal goes, it's really the case. And most of these tie-ins and one-shots are really quite interesting and quite well written. So that's why I've decided to read each and every single one of them, although I don't have any single physical copy to show you, because once again, I come from the Czech Republic, I don't have any comic book stores near me, and we're on a lockdown again anyway, so I wouldn't be able to get my comic book issues in comic book stores anyway, so yeah, that's why I buy them digitally. But this review is about Dark Knight's Death Metal Rise of the New God, which is an issue that is divided basically into two parts. The first one revolves around, obviously, well, the new god. Who's the new god? The new god is the Batman who loves, who was transformed into the Darkest Night by, really transforming, or not transforming, transplanting his brain and his consciousness into the body of Bruce Wayne / Dr. Manhattan from an alternative reality. So, I'm sorry, I just burped. I drank, a sparkly energy drink, so that's why. So, we've got the Batman who laughs, who is a dark Batman from the Dark Multiverse. Their boss, basically, the boss of all the Dark Batman from the Dark Multiverse. A combination of the Joker and Bruce Wayne. Basically created by Bruce Wayne from a different reality, killing the Joker, who had in his body a substance which gets released, when you kill him. And this substance, this gas, makes you the next Joker. So that's how Batman Who Laughs came to be. And he wanted to, take over the multiverse and recreate it in his own image and bugger over with his mistress, Perpetua, the goddess, who also wanted to recreate the multiverse in her own image, and she thought that the Batman Who Loves was her main chieftain and a very loyal servant. Well, the Batman Who Loves had his own plans, and by transferring his consciousness into a Dr. Manhattan-ish body, he became basically the most powerful being in the universe. Plus, he linked his power and his consciousness with the Speed Force and the Mobius chair. So can you imagine anything more powerful? Alright, so this being then, this huge dark bastard, is fighting Perpetua throughout this entire issue for the, rule over the DC multiverse. And suddenly, somebody appears out of, not thin air, but out of the space. And apparently, this being is the Chronicler. And he is from the Omniverse, which apparently is even bigger than the multiverse. So we've got the universe, which is a part of a multiverse, which is a part of the Omniverse. And the Chronicler is the being from the Omniverse. And his task is to write down every single story and history of a dying multiverse, so that it is remembered and it is not forgotten in the Omniverse. And since we know from the previous issues that the multiverse, the DC Comics multiverse, has found itself in not very pleasant position, and it appears that it's dying, or on the decline, the task of the chronicler is to chronicle the history of the multiverse. And he wants to do this via asking, or via really looking into the memory and the brain of Metron, who at the time is dead and not present on his Mobius chair anymore. Well, but the chronicler revives him. He resurrects Metron. And for the remaining part of this particular story, they chat and they watch Perpetua and the Dark Knight, or the Darkest Knight, fight. Now, I will not tell you how the part of this issue ends. You will have to find out for yourself. I will only read out 2 pages that I found very interesting, in that the more I read of the Dark Knight's death metal, the more I see allegories and symbolisms to the situation that the comic book industry and comic books in general and art in general that it has found itself in. And it seems to me that a lot of the writers, in the case of the main story arc, it is written by Scott Snyder. This was written by James Tynion. I think that his name is pronounced Tynion, although most of us want to pronounce it like Tinian the Fourth, and illustrated by Jesus Merino. That these writers they do realize what's happening, and they want to save the comic book superheroes or the comic book heroes, and if they can't, they are providing us with consolation through the words that they write in the comic books. And it seems to me that James Tynion the Fourth did so in the pages of Dark Knight's Death Metal: Rise of the New God. So in this passage, the Chronicler and Metron are talking about the multiverse, the DC multiverse, and his characters, his inhabitants. And the fact that it's going to be lost and dead very soon, according to them, which, if you look in the real world, DC Comics is dying, and I don't think they're going to be publishing any new comic books within a couple of years, maybe within a year. So Metron says, "This is a universe built on belief. The little mortals believe in gods, and so the gods exist. The gods believe in the source, and so the source exists. You are of the source, are you not?" he asks the chronicler. "The source of creativity and creation that fuels all things in existence. You are above me on several rungs on the cosmic ladder, a being of the omniverse, not a being of the multiverse, and still the source exists above you." And the chronicle says, "Yes." And Metron continues, "This multiverse creates incredible evil so that it might be overcome, and there is always something good enough to counter the ultimate evil, to keep a balance. So it was on Apocalypse and New Genesis. But there are other battles, and now, once again, they rage on. One day the balance will fail, and perhaps that day is today. But I am comforted by the notion that the source retains a record. And I am comforted even more that the one who came to take that record has become a believer in us. That means that our multiverse will never truly die. It will live on, in stories, in imagination, which at a cosmic scale makes it all real again. The omniverse is infinite, its potential limitless. In one form or another, even if we are fully destroyed, we will live on." "Are you certain?" asks the chronicler. "Of course not. But I believe, and I believe that if you saw things the way I have, if you followed this grand story from the beginning to the end, you would feel the same." So, of course, we could say that these things apply to literature in general and to people in general. When we are reciting the old poems, and when we are telling the old stories, let's say from the old Scandinavia, if you are into this sort of stuff, the heroes and the characters will never truly die. They will forever be remembered in our stories. But I think that as far as the contemporary world, we could apply that to the comic book industry. We see where comic book superheroes are heading, to damnation and to the leftist SJW hell. But I believe that by reading and rereading the good old comic books that were written a long time ago, and not that long time ago, those comic book characters, as they were created and as they are supposed to be, they will forever live in our hearts and minds and memories. So that is why I will forever be rereading the good stuff, the good old stuff, and still finding new good old comic books that I have never read before. Notwithstanding the other more contemporary shit that nobody wants to read anyway. So that's what I liked about the issue the most. The metaphysical, philosophical stuff, that it's ultimately very true, both about literature in general and about the contemporary state of the comic book industry. And the second part of the comic book issue was called The Weight of Leadership, and it was about the Green Lanterns. It followed the story of the Green Lanterns and their contribution to the fight against the Darkest Night. It was written by Brian Hill and illustrated by Nick Virella, I think so, the name is pronounced. And it's about the two most boring Green Lanterns, Jon Stewart and what's her name? The chick Green Lantern, the Mexican chick Green Lantern. Ethan Van Sciver was one of her creators, but I'm blanking on her name. Cruz, something Cruz. So yeah, basically what happens is that they don't have enough Power Rings and Green Lanterns. Well, they don't have enough Green Lanterns, and so they have to find another solution. And I will not spoil the rest. So the second half of the issue was meh. It was like, okay, right. So just a continuation of a story that you will enjoy the most when it all comes out in a collected edition. Which of course applies to the entire run, right? To the entire event. So, to sum it up, Dark Knight's Death Metal Rise of the New God was fine. It was okay. It was filled with metaphysical, philosophical stuff that I actually enjoyed and that I do agree with. So kudos to James Tynion IV. And the second half of the issue, I'll just wait for the collected edition so I can enjoy it fully. I know, but it was just a snippet, right? It was just like an episode, like a half an issue. Like it was meh. Jessica Cruz, that's her name, right? Fine, yeah. And there's my guy, there's my man, Hal Jordan. So he wasn't just like like 2 panels. Yeah, I need some more Hal Jordan, really. So yeah, there was that. What do you think, my friends? I've already been talking for too long. Have you enjoyed Dark Knight's Death Metal Rise of the New God or not? Do you share my opinions, or do your opinions differ in any way? Let me know in the comments down below. And that will be all from me. See you soon. Bye.